no rest. No, no.
All right, welcome back. It's the Built by Vitality podcast. My name is Steve Pinkerton, and I'm sitting next to my forever guest, Philip Lewis. And we have Joe Pappas here today and his trainer, Mr.
Nate Agnew.
Nate Agnew.
Last time Nate was on the show,
I thought about even today, like, I don't know if I want to step back in here. Last time I was on here, it wasn't a lot of fun.
What happened?
Well, it's just the old
Philip's idea with the vitamins.
No,
with the
no.
vitamin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Joe, he did ask me about 17 times, so you want me on the podcast or no? Just Joe, or do you want me on the... So we said, yeah, but there's no secrets here. Actually, we do have a little surprise.
Yep, we have a sponsor now.
Our first sponsor.
Yep, all these grinds were purchased by our sponsor. Our new sponsor for our podcast is Fred.
Fred Baldwin.
Yes.
Virginia Tech, Fred?
I don't know, but
What kind of
Fred.
sponsorship deal did we get from this?
It was a pretty good deal.
Really?
He gave me $20 to get these grinds.
Thank you, Fred.
That's right.
Did he sign the contract?
Yeah.
Okay.
I actually have part of it in my pocket, but we'll stop about halfway
Okay.
through.
Fred, thank you for the grinds. Go Hokies. All right. So Joe we're gonna talk to Joe about his journey here. I met Joe when he first came in. How long ago was that, Joe?
About 2.5 years ago.
About 2.5 years. And he had a lot of mobility issues. He had a scheduled back surgery, or surgery that was going to take place. And we actually had the conversation to say, should I start with Nate before, or should I just wait till my surgery's over and figure that out afterwards? And I said, man, you know what? Let's make sure it's a good fit. Let's see how it works out. And here we are 2.5 years later. He never had the surgery. I would say that he's a completely different athlete. And I thought it'd be really interesting to get Nate and Joe's take on what this process has been like. And the point of this is it's never too late to start. Joe and I were talking beforehand. He started working out with us at 55. And I think a lot of people, they get to a point in their life and they kind of think, hey, I got what I got. You know, what am I really going to be able to change? What can I really impact at 55 years? And we've said it numerous times. I strongly believe that the quality of your life will be directly connected to your ability to be mobile. And when you lose that, you're going to lose the freedom to do a lot of different things. And Joe, I think, has completely turned this thing upside down and went from somebody that I think maybe could have been pretty limited, and we'll get his take on that here in a second, and turned it into something where, you know, he's doing things that I don't think he would have ever dreamed he was being able to do. So can you start us, Joe, kind of how this process started, kind of when you started having some of the issues that you have, and maybe how those started to come about?
Sure. So I had surgery first when I was 50, same back surgery that I avoided this incident. And it's a tough surgery. The recovery is not fun. It takes you almost a year to get back. There was a lot of discussion about doing things to prepare for it to make the recovery easier. So when I was looking at it the second time, what I was really focused on was trying to get myself as healthy as possible, lose some weight, reduce inflammation, and build up some strength so that maybe instead of a year recovery, I might have 6 months. So that was my goal, but oddly, I haven't even had to have the surgery, so completely exceeded expectations.
Now, how much weight did you lose when you started this?
I've lost about 50 pounds,
50 pounds.
Since I started.
What about from a mobility standpoint? When you started with Nate on session 1, what was your mobility like at that time? What were you able to do, or what were you not able to do outside the gym?
Yeah, it'd be a pretty short conversation because I wasn't able to do a lot. Very limited in terms of like hip mobility, tight hamstrings, back really tight, stuff like that. So getting up and down off the floor, a challenge, getting up out of a chair. I mean, I was able to, but it wasn't fun. So I was looking at a lot of stuff like that, significantly improved since then.
So Nate, you know, Nate's one of those guys that he's a critical thinker when it comes to training. I think he's a smart He's a really smart guy, probably because he's been surrounded by me for 12 years. But let's just not jump to conclusions. Let's just say he's smart. You know, when I paired the two of them together, I think it's always a feeling out process in the beginning. I think one of the most challenging things as a trainer is to have somebody that has quite a bit of limitations, and the thought up front that, hey, I'm due for back surgery. Number two, man, all of a sudden now you're kind of like, you're keeping those cards pretty close to your chest because you're like, I don't know how hard I want to push, Joe. What was that like in the beginning for you, Nate?
It definitely is, like you said, a feeling out process. But I remember when you and Joe initially spoke, and then he talked about having the back surgery, everything, and me just thinking like, I think we can avoid that. I really think if we can get Joe in here, like he's talking about, get a little bit more mobile, get stronger, I think we can dodge this back surgery, and he won't even have to deal with it, and he'll be 10 times stronger without the surgery, period. So that was kind of my mindset going into it, is looking at it as like a challenge. And then as soon as we start working together and I see that he's thinking the same way, I'm like, this is money. We got a great thing going. He'll continue to do the things he's supposed to do. He's a super disciplined individual. I know Jess can't get him to cheat enough on his nutrition plan. So I know his head's in the right place. I know my head's in the right place. So I'm like, okay, this is going to take a little bit of time, a little bit of patience, but as long as we're on the same page and we stay communicating with each other, I mean, his ceiling is incredibly high.
Well, how'd the training evolve, you know, from the beginning to now? You know, were you doing more mobility for the majority of your sessions? What has kind of changed with how you have structured the training for Joe?
Yeah, so starting off, it was a lot of mobility, a lot of positions that he was not used to getting into, a lot of positions that probably weren't very comfortable to get into in those early stages. So the majority of it, like you said, a lot of hamstring stuff. I struggle with hamstring stuff as well, so we kind of bounce back and forth off each other there. A lot of upper back stuff, a lot of lower back stuff, a lot of strength. That's something you talk about all the time, is, you know, that's number one injury is back. But why is that getting injured so much? Well, a lot of people's backs are just really weak, and that was the case starting off. So a lot of back strengthening, a lot of posterior chain strengthening, not a whole lot of quote-unquote working out, actually. We did some lighter weight training and things like that. But the biggest part of the early stages was just getting his body to open up so that we can start to actually move weights and get in different movements and positions that we want to.
Did you enjoy the first 3, 4, 5 months, Joe? Was that something that you'd look back on and say, gosh, I liked that? Or was it kind of more of an annoyance? What do you think as far as that went?
I did. Not as much as the training I have right now, because it wasn't as diverse as what I'm able to do at this point. But I always knew that was going to be a temporary thing. I was working towards being able to get into an Evo Fit class. I could see I was going to eventually get there, so I was very excited about it, motivated to continue. The exercises were limited, but still well worth it.
You know, I think the mistake that a lot of people make on both sides, as the client and the trainer, is you take someone like Joe and you say, okay, well, we have to get him moving, we have to get him exercising, we have to get him working out. And a lot of people don't have the discipline to take 4 steps backwards before they can take a few steps forward. And Joe's the guy, like you had said, he's always, and I didn't know until, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago that you were kind of a financial guy, like an analytics guy. It makes so much sense now because it's so clear to people that have that type of mindset. Okay, well, I have to do this before I do this, and you're very disciplined in the way that you think. And I think that helped you a ton, because if you come in here and you start getting on the bike and getting your heart rate up and moving in ways that your body shouldn't be moving, you're going to get hurt. And I think that's what happens to a lot of people in their 40s and early 50s is they get into a program, they get excited about it, and then they get hurt. And then they're like, well, hey, this isn't for me, I can't do it. You took the approach that, hey, let's play the long game. Let's not play this, what's tomorrow going to be like. Let's play, what are we going to be doing in a year from now? And Nate having that mindset of saying, okay, I'm not doing this so that we can get 3 months of sessions, and I'm doing this so that a year from now, we're going to completely change and alter kind of where Joe's at. and having the discipline to stay with those first 3 to 6 months probably is what has led you to the amount of success you've had at this point. And losing 50 pounds, I bet doesn't hurt either.
No, not so much. And you're right. Being a financial guy, I'll be the first to admit I don't understand hardly anything about how to exercise the right way, physiology. So I learned a lot about doing things gradually. I learned a lot about if your elbow hurts and you're doing a curl, if you change your grip, it won't hurt. Things about the surrounding areas and strengthening all of that when your back hurts, all stuff I'd never be able to figure out on my own. So I think it's really important when you don't have the expertise to seek it out.
Yeah. It'd be like me, or better, it'd be like my guy Philip here trying to crack the old investment code when Joe's been doing this thing for 40 years. Yeah. And Philip wakes up one day, he's like, you know what? I'm going to take all my money and I'm going to try and roll it in, you know?
Probably not a good idea.
Or you could just go find someone like Joe, and Joe could tell him, hey, here's in my 40 years of experience. But, you know, a lot of people think that they can master this type of stuff, whatever it is, instead of seeking out that mentor or that coach to help them with the process. So how do you think it got... What do you think led to? Do you think it was occupation that led to some of the back issues? Is it posture related? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's both. So occupationally, I was at a desk, same height as you, 6'6", and the desks aren't built up here; they're built down here. So I stay like this all the time. Your hips are locked in, your shoulders get tight, and in that industry, you're so busy you don't have any time to exercise. So it was very much a matter of setting aside the time for myself and keeping myself healthy and committing to it and making it a priority that I think made a huge difference. But I think it's that. I think that lifestyle and that career, if you're not real careful, you're very prone to putting weight on quickly. When I started working there, I'm going to say 92, 93, I probably put on like 50 pounds, and
really
took a long time to lose it.
What did Jess have you doing to lose the weight? Did she have you doing keto?
Yeah, she had me doing keto. I had already dropped like 80 pounds when I got here, and then she helped me lose the rest. But that keto plan, all I do is eat. I eat good food. I don't feel like I'm on a diet, and weight stays off.
So you lost 80 pounds before, plus 50, so you're talking 130 pounds.
Yep.
Man. And you think, and it sounds like 130 pounds is so much weight, but I guess when you scale that out over 92, 28 years, 29 years, that's kind of where it's that slow burn that just slowly starts to accumulate. It's kind of like compound interest going the wrong way.
That's right.
You slowly start to add it, and the heavier you get, the less you notice a pound or 2 pounds or 3 pounds. Philip weighing 140, he gains 2 pounds. He's like, that's a lot of weight. Philip weighing 230 gains 2 pounds, doesn't even notice it.
That's right.
So it's just it kind of starts to.
Yeah, you're right. When I lost the first 10 pounds, I was at a place, and they said, "Oh, you lost the first 10 pounds. Congratulations!" I'm like, "Yeah, it's like I threw a suitcase off the Titanic. Like, it doesn't even make a difference,
What'd you do to lose that first 80?
Weight Watchers.
Okay. Yeah.
How'd you like it?
I liked it for a while. What was tough about it is it feels like a diet, and it's not sustainable. You have to eat way too much salad, way too much yogurt. Don't like eating those things. On keto, I'm eating steak, bacon, and eggs, like food that I would actually eat. You have to make sacrifices, but you're not constantly eating things that you would never eat otherwise.
And for people that are listening, let's just set the record straight here. Joe, you're a New York guy.
Mm-hmm.
You've brought some things back from New York that I didn't know existed. So when you say you're not somebody that's just got kind of a bland palate. You've got some experience up in that north.
Oh, yeah.
He brought back some sausage or pepperoni. Excuse me.
Sausage.
It was dried sausage.
Dried sausage was incredible. I didn't even know that stuff existed the way that was. Amazing. Then I see this. What wheel of cheese, and it's filled with butter. And I'm like,
Cheese filled with butter? That sounds awesome.
yeah, right? Were you aware that existed?
No, unless you made it yourself in the kitchen.
Joe comes back. Can you give us a little backstory on this cheese wheel of goodness?
Yeah, sure. So I'm an Italian. I'm from New York, and I like my food. You go to these Italian supermarkets, and they have all kinds of pepperoni and sausage. Well, I found this cheese. It said provolone cheese with a buttery core. How bad can that be? Well, I cut it open, and there's a block of butter in the center of cheese. And it was like a stroke of genius. I saw the clouds open up, the grail, everything. It's fantastic.
Oh, man.
But yeah, I love my food, but all that stuff, it's just a matter of finding things and understanding, right? You know, you can eat cheese, you can eat fat, stay away from carbs, stay away from sugar. So here's a thing that most people would deem extremely unhealthy, but actually works for the plan I'm on because it doesn't have sugar and it doesn't have carbs. So there's a lot of opportunities to eat really cool stuff that feels like it's a cheat, but it's really not.
Yeah. It's always interesting to see how people can adapt kind of their food to whatever diet works for them. And so many people miss the boat because they just don't have an imagination to say, okay, well, it's not that important to me. Well, at some point, and you know, we talked about this beforehand, if you don't start this process with Nate, and like I said, whether it's at Vitality or anywhere else, if you don't start this exercise program and you don't change your diet, I wonder what Joe Pappas would look like right now. I wonder what his quality of life would be like right now. And I would have to imagine if you put those 50 pounds back on, maybe you put another 30 or 40, another 50 pounds on top of that. Maybe Weight Watchers would have been sustainable for a little bit longer. But at some point, it sounds like that was probably going to not be a long-term solution.
I agree.
So now all of a sudden you start putting this weight back on, and now that you have the second back surgery, what happens during that year that you're out? Now maybe you pack on even more weight, and who knows? I mean, maybe you're just completely limited to, you know, a lot of people get limited to, they can get around their house a little bit. They're not super mobile. But I remember talking to your neighbor, Trey, and Scott Cruz, same neighborhood. They said, man, we saw Joe out helping move trees or something. This was, and he couldn't do that in a million years before. And you start to see the differences of this. And now you might take it for granted, the mobility you do have. But I think back and I wonder how different it would be if you didn't do that. And man, I think your life looks a little bit different. And
yeah.
You know, it's so cool to see. And on top of that, you know, it's cool to have a great story, but it's even better when it's a really good person that we all love being around. I mean, I promise you, we're not allowed to have favorites around here. But if you ask Laura and Nate and Bird and I who our favorite is, it's Joe Pappas all day long, and then you can see it. It's true because you know what? You treat people in a way that makes everybody feel important. You're always doing the right thing, and then you see someone that can have this transformation. It's just you know, this is why we all do what we do. It's why, you know, Nate has worked for 12 years to build his training business to be centered around people that he enjoys being around. And I'm sure that, you know, over the years there's been people he's trained that maybe he hasn't had as good of a relationship with and hasn't enjoyed training as much because maybe they didn't take it as serious or they just weren't as friendly. But then when you find someone like you that he can start to build this around, now he's got this, he understands what a client trainer relationship should be and how much easier it makes it, you know?
Yeah, and it goes both ways. I mean, all the trainers here have helped me dramatically. I never was going to be able to do this all by myself, and I know that. Things like these little adjustments, scales, encouragement, all of those kinds of things make a big difference. And what would have happened is, you're right, I would have gained weight. I'll be 60 in 3 years, and I can't even imagine how bad that picture would have looked if I didn't start moving things in a better direction.
Now, you travel a lot to New York?
I do.
Okay. Is that because your son Michael lives in New York, or is it work related for?
Yeah, my son lives there. I have a granddaughter who's 4. I sling her around like a sack of weed, throw her up in the air, swing her. We play Supergirl, and she flies through the air with me flying her. So, yeah.
But so it's all it's leisure when you go to New York. You're not working up there.
No.
That's something too. You look at, can the 54-year-old Joe, before he focuses on nutrition and focuses on training, can he do those things with your grandkid and go see your son? I don't know. I don't know how much longer you would have been able to do that.
No, I wouldn't have. Right before, I heard a lot of, leave Grandpa alone, his back is bothering him, Uncle Joe can't swing you that much more, all that kind of stuff. Now I go up there, there's like a line of 8 kids, and I swing all 8 of them, and it's over. So it's fine.
And that's a cool thing when people can see firsthand the difference of what their interactions can be. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people that don't have the ability to do those things. And I'm not sure there's a ton of people that had a more serious outlook from an injury perspective than you did, and you were able to reverse this. So, there are people out there that are maybe feeling sorry for themselves or whatever that have these issues. But I think if they can just start, if they can find someone that can help them on that journey, man, I think getting older is not about getting more fit. It's delaying this, that drop off. Because once we hit 40, you start to have a little bit of a drop off, and all the goal should be is let's just keep it plateaued. Let's just stay feeling good. We don't need to,
Let's maintain. Let's not lose. Yeah.
And I think that mindset needs to be reinforced by people that can convey it in a way that makes them understand. I'm not trying to make Joe having a 300-pound deadlift does nothing for him, but Joe being able to get off of one knee and pick up his grandkid and hold her over his head, that's what's more important than anything. So how do we get to that point? And I think if people can be patient in that and see the patience that Joe had, maybe there's hope for people out there, because we are getting to a point now where the obesity rates keep going higher and higher, and you think of just the 130 pounds that you lost, man. Have you tracked your blood markers and your blood work along the way from that?
Yeah, so I used to take, I'm going to say 7 prescriptions. I'm down to 3 now, which is nice. I used to take a pill. I was type 2, the diabetic. When I went to the doctor after keto, he said, oh my God, your A1C is like 4.5. We have to get you off this pill like right away. So pretty dramatic results, even from a chemical perspective.
Huh.
What's your next set of goals in here? Probably like with Nate.
Yeah, my next set of goals are just really to continue along the path. I'm almost at the point where I can do just about everything that's written on the board when we do workouts. There's a couple of things I have left that I struggle with, but the list is getting shorter and shorter.
That's good.
So I would love by the summer next year, where whatever's up there, I don't ask for scales. I just do what's on the board and get it done.
I wonder what. Do you remember back to when he first started doing EvoFit? The amount of modifications that Joe had.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, that was kind of the goal. Once we figured out, okay, we're not going to have his back surgery, then it was just communication. Then he's like, okay, I want to jump in these classes, and then like he just said, I want to be able to do everything. So early on, for sure, a decent amount of scales, just still getting the body used to getting in these proper positions, something that his body hadn't done for a little bit. So it definitely took him some time. But the thing with him is it was just bought in from day one. He comes to me, says, hey, or us, I'm supposed to have this back surgery. We say, hey, we think we can help you dodge it. Okay, cool. I'm buying in. He goes, hey, I want to get in those EvoFit classes. We'll get you there. He buys in. He gets into the EvoFit classes. Same thing with Jess and nutrition. Now we're doing hang power clean and jerks at 105. Like it's insane what can happen when you actually buy in 100%. Because we're we're bought in. We're going to be there with you 100%. But as soon as you flip that switch in your brain, which he did and continues to do on a daily basis, it's these sorts of things happen. You get the opportunity to play with your grandkids, which a lot of people don't. You get the opportunity to have this crazy energy leading into your 60s, which a lot of people don't. So just seeing that, and like Steve was saying earlier, it really is why we do what we do. And I wish we saw it more, but when we do see it, man, it's special. It's very special.
Yeah.
I guess we'll do a quick word from our sponsor real quick, right?
Please.
I'll let you read it. It's from our sponsor.
So for those of you who don't know, Fred Baldwin was a longtime member here, and he came in one day and said, hey, I just need to get ready for 30 days. I'm running some race or something like that. This is like 5 years ago or 6 years ago, old Vitality. I said, man, 30 days is all we got? He's like, yeah, just a month. 7 years later, he has to leave because he finally retires, and he goes up to Virginia. So now, and he's got jokes. He's a comedian here. So let's see what says Fred.
That's it.
So that's about as Fred as it gets.
Yeah, that's it.
I don't know, not to waste too much time. I don't know how Jane does it, but Jane should probably, qualify for the Nobel Peace Prize for being married to Fred.
Yeah.
So, Fred, thank you for the grinds. I had Philip charge your card the $450 monthly sponsorship fee.
Yep.
That's an auto renew for 12 months, and then we can renegotiate. So I appreciate it. Thanks for your support, Fred. I guess closing this out, Joe. Do you think this is something? I mean, when you looked at when you talked about Weight Watchers, you said, hey, it wasn't sustainable. Do you think your schedule and lifestyle is training going to be something that you can see yourself doing for the foreseeable future?
Yeah. My intent is to do it forever, because I know that when I stop, it's going to have a price. So if I just stay at it, it's all about consistency and commitment and doing the same thing day after day after day. So that's what I'm going to do. It's just a matter of cutting out an hour of your schedule. If you really care about something, you can.
Not to get too much off topic, how was it during quarantine for you with working out?
Well, that's a good question because what I did was a lot of stuff at home, outside, and what I learned from that is now that I travel to New York, I have certain pieces of equipment, and I bring those, and when I travel, I look up the workout on the app, and I might have to change exercise or two, but I can pretty much do the workout on the road. So that's exactly the way I approached it during the virus, even though we weren't able to be here.
You were still in
and
contact with Nate, right?
I was in contact with Nate. He would do the movements, have somebody film him, and then send me the film. So it was just like getting a coach on my phone, and then I would go out on the deck with my equipment and do the workout. Worked out perfect.
He's lucky that he caught Nate 2.0 because Nate's iPhone -4 that he had for the previous 4 years.
What is he doing on that?
I guaranteed another camera on that thing. So hey,
it's a flip phone.
Yeah, it was before the flip phone. It was pretty incredible. We'll wrap up with this. I saw this quote the other day, and I've heard it a million times, but it said, if you're worried about the price of getting started, you should see the cost of staying exactly where you are. And I think people need to understand that there's an absolute, because everyone's going to see a price to it. They're going to see, hey, the cost, and it might not be financial, it might be time, it might be financial, but there's going to be all these factors that play into getting started with some type of training program. Mm-hmm. And people will make that decision based on those factors. But what they usually don't do is put a price tag on what the cost is of not doing anything. And that's where I think this can open some people's eyes up and say, okay, hey, yes, it's going to cost X. It's going to take my time away from this. But if I don't do it, the price on my ability to travel, my ability to function outside the four walls of my home, and what the actual price tag is going to be on medical bills and doctor's visits is probably 10x what it was going to cost to start.
Oh, yeah.
But you end up, and I think you're an anomaly because usually I would say that 55, 54-year-old athletes don't start. They just won't or aren't willing to start, and you did, and now you can now be this beacon of light to all these other people that are sitting at home saying, man, I can't travel up north, or I can't do this, or I can't do that. And, not to get in the pandemic, but, now you talk about the risk of this target demographic being older, 55 and over. Well, the heavier you are, the more pills you're taking for these other diseases and issues that we've got, you're just now even more of a target. So now on top of being healthy and mobile, you're taking yourself out of that target demographic and putting yourself, in a completely different realm. So
yeah, and you're right about the investment. I used to meet the deductible on my health plan in January. We're in October, still haven't met it yet.
that's awesome.
It's a big change.
Man, that's awesome. Well, Joe, this has been awesome. I appreciate you taking the time.
Of course.
We love seeing you around here, and we hopefully will see you from now until Philip leaves. So,
Which
Be
is
a
forever.
long time for
That's
now.
right.
yeah, he signed a 10-year deal, so he ain't going anywhere. But thank you, Joe. I appreciate it.
No, thank you for all you do to help me.
You got
I
it.
appreciate you guys.
All right.
Joe.
Yep. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Guys, until next time, this episode is sponsored by Mr. Fred Baldwin.
Yep.
Take care.